Hello, and thanks for joining us for the Friends of the Farm lecture series. My name is Candace Haas, and I'm so thankful to have you guys with us today. I want to thank all of our viewers and our customers from the pharmacy, from the pottery, and from the natural healing centers, and for those of you who may have found us on the internet. Today, we're going to meet the director and the associate program manager for Cannabis for Conservation, and we're going to learn about their mission, the programs that they offer, and how you guys can get involved in the intersection between cannabis and conservation. I'm really happy to be joined by Jackie Riccio and Vanessa Montellano, who work for Cannabis for Conservation. Jackie is the executive director and co-founder of Cannabis for Conservation, the first and only 501c3 nonprofit establishing conservation programs for the cannabis industry. She completed her degrees at Cal Poly Humboldt in both wildlife conservation and archaeology. She specializes in working with endangered and threatened species in a variety of habitats and landscapes, including agricultural settings, and has always emphasized community-focused conservation. Makes sense? Our second guest, Vanessa, is the Associate Program Manager for Cannabis for Conservation. She's an environmental scientist and a recent master's graduate from UC Irvine in conservation and restoration science. She, like I said, she's a current graduate, but she's also a graduate student at UCS's Spatial Sciences Institute, where she'll receive a graduate certification in Geographic Information Services, or GIS. Vanessa hopes to use her GIS skills from the program to tell visual stories on how land management practices positively impact wildlife conservation in the Emerald Triangle. That's really cool. I really look forward to seeing that. Cannabis for Conservation is a 501c3 nonprofit and environmental nonprofit with the mission to conserve persisting natural resources, restore degraded ecosystems, and educate communities to prevent further impacts from unsustainable cannabis cultivation. So I'm really happy to have them with us and really happy to add this to our webinar series. We've done several on sustainability, and so I'm really happy to have you guys with us. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks so much, Candace. It's a total pleasure to be here with you all. It's really a treat for us to be able to do this public education. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, really happy. So we're going to actually start with a brief video, and then we'll get into your guys' presentation. Awesome. I love that short little video. Kind of shows some of the scenery, some of like the farms that you guys work in. I was so glad when I met Vanessa. Conservation, sustainability has always been something that Glass House and the pharmacy dispensaries, really prioritize, and we think it's important to spread the message about, if we are going to be cultivating cannabis and packaging these goods, we need to be responsible, sustainable about the way that we do it. So when I found out about the work that you guys were doing, I was really, really excited about it. So really happy to have you guys with us today.
Thank you so much, Candace, for having us here. Okay, so I guess without further ado, we'll go ahead and get our presentation started. So thank you again, Candace, for inviting Jackie and I to speak to everyone today. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in from your home to listen to us speak today. So here's a brief presentation overview about things we'll cover. So we'll talk about who we are, our professional backgrounds, what we do, our focal geography, so where a lot of our research takes place, our current conservation programs, some companies that we've collaborated with in the past year, also our 2023 goals, and ultimately how to work with us if that's something that interests you. Okay, so let's meet our team. So as you all heard, we have Jackie Riccio here, who is our conservation director and our co-founder. And we have myself, Vanessa. I'm also the program associate and biologist. We also have Janelle, who is our wonderful seasonal biologist who helps Jackie out in the field in person. And we also have Dane Curry, who is our coordinator of planned giving and also our other co-founder. So a little bit about myself. So I'm an OC native, born and raised. I did my bachelor's of biological sciences at Chapman University. I graduated in 2019. I then took a gap year because I wanted to figure out what it is that I wanted to do with my degree. So then I did that, and then I chose to pursue my master's of conservation and restoration science at UC Irvine. And I just graduated in June of 2022. So I did that. And then, like Candace said, I am also in a graduate certification program at USC. So I'm super excited to get my certification in GIS. And I'm going to share a quick quote that I feel like really resonates with me. So it says, "To love a place is not enough. We must find ways to heal it." And that's from Robin Wall Kimmerer, Braiding Sweet Grass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants. It's definitely a great book to read if you're interested in ecology and just want a easy read. Jackie and I love this book, so definitely give it a read if you have the time. And I'll go ahead and pass it on to Jackie.
Thanks, Vanessa. So yeah, as has already been said, I'm Jackie Riccio. I'm the executive director, conservation director, and co-founder of Cannabis for Conservation. A little bit about myself. I've got a background in wildlife management and biological conservation. I also have a degree in archaeology and paleoecology. So how people have previously interacted with their environment from millennia ago is really interesting to me. And I completed my degrees at Cal Poly Humboldt up here in Humboldt County. And it was a total pleasure going there. I mean, I really can't say enough about what a great school it was. And it's very community focused. I mean, the program was really designed to produce biologists that wanted to make a difference in their world. So I was very happy to be able to go there. And then I started working as a biologist and just being in Humboldt. The cannabis industry and my work just kind of naturally melded. And I had some experiences working as a biologist for different private organizations and for the government, where my ethics and morals were kind of challenged by the research that we're doing. A lot of times wildlife research can be very invasive. And when you're working with special status species and endangered species, it can start to kind of wear and tear on your emotions. Because a lot of the work, like I said, it's very invasive. It can have an impact on the population. And I also found that there wasn't a lot of actual conservation that was coming out of the research that I was doing. So I was causing this impact to these different species, and then there wasn't a whole lot of immediate differences in management. And I really wanted to do work that had differences in management. Yeah. And so I decided to kind of go out and do my own thing. And there was certainly a need for our organization. We were founded, kind of right when legalization was happening, which I'll get into more in a minute. But yeah, that's me. So I decided to do my own thing and founded CFC, and here we are.
That's awesome. Were you also a cannabis consumer at the same time and kind of decided to bring those worlds together?
I was, yeah. And cannabis has kind of had a funny way of being part of my life. So I used to smoke in college and was a consumer. And then I kind of went through this phase where it wasn't having a good impact on my body. And I think that was probably a state that I was in, where I wasn't open to receiving whatever messages the medicine was trying to give me. And lo and behold, I am a consumer again, and I am very happy to be so. And so cannabis has had this major impact in my life without and it was during that time where I actually wasn't consuming it. Just the lifestyle and what the land needed, cannabis brought me all to that. So I'm definitely grateful to it, and we have a great relationship now. And I guess I skipped this quote too. So this is a quote, "In wildness is the preservation of the world." It's a quote by Henry David Thoreau in his essay, Walking. And again, similar to braiding sweetgrass, it is an essay about connecting with the land. And it's about having this, this relationship, this reciprocity. And that's something that's really important to Vanessa and I. We don't just do conservation and science. We're very serious researchers, very serious biologists when it comes to data and science, but we also are not above acknowledging that there is a reciprocity and a true connection that needs to be there as well. So,
Purple.
Next slide. So, a little bit about our history. As you've already said, Candace, and as we said, we're the first and only 501c3 nonprofit in the industry dedicated specifically to environmental conservation. There are other nonprofits doing sustainability, and that's great, and we work with those nonprofits as well. But what makes us different is our on-the-ground work. So we are an actively engaged nonprofit in doing on-the-ground restoration and conservation in relation to wildlife. So this is about the land. This isn't about cultivation practices. I mean, it is to an extent, but it's not focused on cultivation. This is about managing your land. If you do cultivate, learning how to incorporate and integrate wildlife back into the spaces that were originally theirs. Anytime you have an agroecosystem where you're removing habitat, whether you're growing peaches or grapes or weed, it's going to have an impact on the environment. So our whole organization is dedicated to making those spaces more wildlife friendly, and in doing so, improving your crop, your land, and the health of our regional ecosystems.
Win-win for everybody.
Win-win, that's right. So a little bit about our mission. We do actively do conservation programs, which we'll talk about a little bit later in this presentation. And we do some restoration as well. So conservation is more of doing things that will bring wildlife back. Restoration is, bringing a habitat that's been degraded, not good for wildlife, bringing that habitat specifically back up to par so that wildlife can use it again. And then we also do a lot of education. So we do other presentations like this. We go to a number of different conferences. And we also offer a ton of free consulting to cultivators. So we are a resource. We're always a resource. You guys can call us if you've got questions about how to manage your land, pollinator safe pesticides, you name it. We can provide that kind of information. So that's what we do. Back to you, Vanessa.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, so I will talk about our focal geography. So basically where the work that we do is located. So basically our work is located up in Humboldt County. We also do work in Trinity County and also Mendocino County. So basically that makes up the Emerald Triangle. And just a little background, if you're not familiar with why the Emerald Triangle. So back in the 60s and late 60s and early 70s, people flocked to Humboldt because of its remoteness, its beautiful redwood. So it was attractive for a lot of people, and plus people wanted to make it their homestead and be more self-sustaining. So that was a big reason for why people moved to Humboldt. And those people who were also there, are now a lot of our legacy cultivators. So Humboldt has truly a really great history of cannabis cultivation. So I really enjoy that, learning about the history. Okay, so here you can see a more detailed map of where Humboldt is located. So again, it's in Northern California. And so Humboldt is part of the Klamath North Coast bioregion. So in general, this bioregion is characterized by its rocky coastline, forested montane areas, and sparse human settlement. So again, much of the bioregion is covered by forest, including many forest resources in Humboldt County. Additionally, this mountainous region is also the wettest area in California. And additionally, the climate is cool, moist, and tends to be foggy for most of the year, while the inland is a little bit more is drier. And so why does this matter to us? Like, how does it relate to the work that we do? So this bioregion contains a lot of wildlife, such as the bald eagle, the northern spotted owl, which may look familiar to you if you looked at our logo. And so these special status species, whether they're endangered or on the list of endangered species, it's really important that the cannabis cultivation really considers the habitat of these species. We don't want to interfere with that. That's like what's most important to us. Additionally, there are priority watersheds that are in the area. So basically, a watershed is an area of land that drains rain, water, or snow into one specific location, such as a stream, lake, or wetland. And there are various priority watersheds within Humboldt in Northern California that are of interest to us and the work that we do. Okay, so then here is another map that I made for one of our grant applications that shows Trinity County. And so, species like the Chinook salmon, typewriter goby are other species of interest that inhabit these areas. And we definitely, don't want to disturb their habitat because of their status. So it's really important that, we take in mind, these species. Okay. So next slide.
Awesome. Thanks, Vanessa. And I'll add to that too, a lot of the fish in our area, the salmon especially, they have this really amazing interconnected relationship with the land, not only our indigenous people, but also the land. So when we lose our salmon, when watersheds are not healthy, that is a huge nutrient drop. It's like the best natural fertilizer ever. Okay. And it's coming up from, we have these marine nutrients they're out in the water, they're out in the ocean, and they come up to these freshwater watersheds. And when they die, after they spawn, all types of wildlife come and eat that. And then when they're defecating, those nutrients are spread throughout the forest. And there's this really, really intimate relationship between salmon and water and the way that our ecosystems function up here. So I just thought I'd add in that cool little biological tidbit to what Vanessa was saying. And so our programs, the heart of what we do, we have our wildlife conscious certification, which is a eco label for small regenerative farmers who manage their land for wildlife. So that's one of our programs that we do in both Humboldt and Trinity. We do it just in Humboldt right now. We will be expanding to Trinity. And then we also have our drought resilience program and the provisional to annual licensing program, both of which were just recently funded by CDFW. Thank you. Yay. Yeah, through the Cannabis Restoration Grant Program. And then our final program is Farms for Wild Pollinators, which is actually one of the programs that we do in Southern Oregon. And that was a collaboration with Pollinator Project Rogue Valley, Farms Inc., and a bunch of small ecologically minded farmers in Southern Oregon.
That's awesome that you have all those resources available for people.
Thanks. Yeah, we've worked hard. Well, and a lot of cultivators come to us and say, hey, I'd love to do this. I'd love to do a pollinator program. I'd love to do a bat program. I'd love to do whatever. And so we find other like-minded cultivators and create these conservation programs that also benefit species that were already of concern to us. Oh yeah, and look at the comments. Pollinator Project is amazing. Somebody knows what we do up there. Awesome. Yeah, Christina's great. Love what she does up there. Our wildlife conscious certification. So this is actually still in the making. It's a pilot program right now. This was also funded by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife Cannabis Restoration Grant Program. And what we're doing right now is kind of a proof of concept. So we go out and we're taking a bunch of baseline data, a bunch of ecological data on these farms. Here you can see Janelle, our seasonal biologist. She's actually putting up a bat detector, which is, it's an acoustic detector, sonar detector, in the field there. And then she is also, well, I guess she's not. She's just outside the photo. But the second photo is of it's called a blue vein trap. And this is to help us count the diversity and abundance of pollinators on site at these farms. And that tape going through there, that's a transect line. So we do all this biological research. We develop the baseline data for these farms and say, okay, what is it like before we do any type of conservation and management? And then we go and do a bunch of restoration enhancements. So habitat enhancements, like putting up Western bluebird boxes, screech owl boxes, barn owl boxes, lots of bird boxes, lots of types of birds up here. And then we also do hedgerows for pollinators and small mammals. So establishing all types of flowering plants, and we make sure that those bloom sequentially over the seasons, so that you can feed pollinators for over the term of the growing period. And all this information is on our website, guys. So if you want to check out like all the criteria for the wildlife conscious certification, please feel free to go over there. It's under our programs tab. And the whole idea with this is to be able to have people go into a dispensary and go, hey, do you have any wildlife conscious certified cannabis? And your bud tender can go, why, sure, we absolutely do. And they can take you over to the case where their WCC cannabis is. And you can literally look at our Instagram and see the farm, the conservation that's happening on that farm for that certified cannabis. And the cool thing about the certification is that it's designed to be an adaptive management program. So it's not like we write the criteria and set it and forget it. We are constantly looking at journal articles. We're subscribed. We're very much in the loop with the leading scientists in the state that are working with cannabis, that are working with different special status species. We work with pollinator experts, small mammal experts, bird experts, you name it. And we're experts in this as well. And so with our cumulative knowledge, we're able to shape the certification. And it's like a living thing where we can get cultivator feedback, and they can say, hey, this one plant, it didn't really do so well, and for my specific habitat, so maybe you don't require it here, or what have you. It's an adaptive program. It's a beautiful thing. We've had a lot of success with it so far. And we're looking to not only expand that program, but have more bud tender education about it and really launch it from a public relations and media perspective, to get people an idea that this is even out there. So like I said, still a pilot program. Now all that's going to come in the future, but we are certainly looking for dispensaries to start carrying products that are wildlife conscious certified. Right now, we're only doing it on 6 farms. So it's very, very small. A couple of them that you might know, Huckleberry Hill, very famous farm down in Whitethorn, Johnny Casali. Another one is Sunrise Mountain Farms in Willow Creek, Mattole Valley Sungrown down in Honeydew, East Mill Creek Farms, Drew Barber, very famous cultivator as well down in Petrolia. So we work with some amazing cultivators, and we're very blessed and lucky that they let us do this on their land. I mean, for example, they have workers and we didn't communicate that we had our bee cups out, and someone thought someone had a party and they started cleaning up all our bee cups in our research. And so it's a mess sometimes. It's just a mess sometimes, but it's really a fun time. So we're really lucky to be able to do that.
I really love that. I think it's such a good idea.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's so much more than just a sustainability certification. This is really about farmers taking care of their land and acknowledging the wildlife in their area. And we also require, as part of the certification, that farms are also regenerative. They either have to be regenerative certified or just practicing regeneratively. So that's something that we're working on as well.
Love it.
So here's some photos of us, Wildlife Conscious in Action. So up top is our habitat enhancement team, where we planted a bunch of native plants in a hedgerow. And hedgerows are great because they can act as like a natural fence line, and they can provide habitat for small mammals like rabbits and foxes. And then you can also have, pollinator habitat and bird habitat. So they're really important, and the woody hedgerows do really well where we are, because like Vanessa was saying, as you go inland, it can get a little bit drier. So we have different types of native plants that we plant for different spaces. Somebody's cows, I believe those were Drew's cows, they were trying to be helpful, you know, and adjusting our transect line there, which we very carefully laid out. So, you know, the hazards of the job, folks. You know, Ziggy the cat at Huckleberry Hill Farms disrupting our point counts there on the picnic table, needing attention, and actually the photo on top there is a tree swallow at that we took at picture taken at Mattole Valley Sungrown again. So lots of wildlife action and domestic animal action. They're just trying to be part of the certification, I guess. All animal friendly. So I believe this slide is actually Vanessa. So I'm going to turn it back over to her. I've been talking.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie, for really a great explanation of all of our programs. I just love them, and they're just so great. So I'll talk a little bit about our recent grant that we applied for and we did receive. So super exciting. So that's through the California Department of Fish and Wildlife Cannabis Restoration Grant Program. So that's CFC's Drought Resilience Program. So through this and through funding granted by CDFW, qualified cultivators will be able to practice drought resilient conservation efforts to support them through the grow season. So, for example, cultivators will have these giant water storage tanks on their farms that will collect rainfall, and then that's just another way to collect, water. Especially California is, going through a drought. So this is just a really great way to conserve water and not have to use any extraneous water sources that the county, doesn't allow, or that just is not needed. So on the left, you can see a pretty good representation of the farms that that we'll be working with, and then where the farms are in respect to their watershed. So I know it's kind of hard to see. You might need to look really close, but on the legend we have the major towns within Humboldt, the Humboldt County line, and then each watershed. So, for example, Horse Lintel Creek, Lower Van Duzen, Mattole River. So I think this is just a great representation of where all of our applicant farmers are within Humboldt. And yeah.
So with the grant, will you guys be working with them and actually have to help them invest in infrastructure that they need and tanks and stuff like that? So then they'll actually be getting equipment to be able to have water saving systems.
Yeah. So through the grant with the funds that we did get, Jackie and I will be, doing a lot of the ordering, so that it's, the cultivators don't have to do, any of that. We'll take care of all of that stuff. We'll order it with, the company, and the cultivators will just have to go in and pick up their stuff and, the materials, whatever it is specifically, that, we'll take care of. And they just go pick it up. Yeah.
And then you guys will be collecting data, I imagine, too, right? So then you can report back, we've worked with this many farms, this is the effect, and then maybe they would roll it out and provide more grants for more farms. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Vanessa. Sorry.
No, it's okay. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so we take kind of a baseline assessment, just like we do with the wildlife. We'll say, what is your current water usage? And then we're going to have people be putting in the systems, or some of the cultivators even are really educated about irrigation and can install their own irrigation systems. And then we'll do an audit afterwards and see how much they're saving, how much rainwater they've been able to catch. So yeah, it's all types of drought resilience work. So some of it is hardening irrigation. Some of it is, putting gutter systems on greenhouses. Some of it is expanding ponds, or any number of those types of things we funded. We actually funded 17 different farms with this grant. So we're going to be able to do some really good work in the watersheds. Yeah.
Amazing.
All right. So on a similar vein, the other grant that we got funded through the CRGP was our provisional to annual licensing program. So we're not really involved, I know, in licensing, which I know sounds funny. We are, but we're not the people that are actually pushing licenses through. So we're involved in the environmental side. For Trinity County, we got this grant to help 77 different cultivators transition there. There's been some issues with getting licenses through related to the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, as it's commonly known. And so we're working with a consulting firm out there called Plethora, and we've partnered with them, and we're going to really try to get everyone's biologicals wrapped up and package everyone's licenses really nice and make sure all of our bases are covered and work with the county to push these people through, because most of them are really small farmers. They're barely surviving getting through legalization, and this money is really meant to help them get through compliance. You know, it's very hard for people. I don't know if it's well known throughout the rest of California how much our small farmers up here are struggling, and these are the OG farmers. These are the people. This is the whole reason we have this industry, is because of the legacy growers and small farmers up here. And so they really need help. And county governments and small town governments even can really not be helpful sometimes. Even though they create a cannabis program, there are obstructionists everywhere. And from an environmental perspective, it's very concerning to us, because we've seen the impacts of illicit cultivation when there's not a regulated market. And when people get greedy, and it can be very bad. And also the bureaucratic hoop jumping that people have to do in relation to the environment does not make people want to participate in environmental anything. Conservation programs, doing it on their own property, and that's a big red flag for us, because we're very we're always trying to spread community focused conservation, and we want people to be doing this. We don't want them to be afraid of hoop jumping, in regards to the environment, and we want them to have the tools and resources to be able to push past mitigation and whatnot that's required on their farms. So that's a big part of why we're part of it. And the photo here's another good example. The photo here is foothill yellow-legged frog. So that's a species of concern in our area. Their populations are declining across the state as a whole. Our population in the north is a little bit more stable, but as a whole, they're certainly threatened by poor water quality and watershed health in the area. And this is a species where we can actually produce some mitigation on cannabis farms to conserve for this species. Now, people don't want to have yellow-legged frogs on their farms because it means that they have to do mitigation. But if you have organizations like ours that can help people and work them through the process of mitigation and show them that it's not so scary, and be kind of a liaison between the regulators and the cultivator, we're very good at doing that. And that's one of the reasons that we're part of the licensing program, and because we want to help. So
I love that, though, and you are so right, because a lot of these small farmers are just barely keeping the farm afloat, and CEQA is very overwhelming for even a very experienced operator, especially when you're dealing with like up north and there's more environmental concerns. Not so much an issue down south because we don't have as many sensitive species as you guys do. And you're right, if it's not easy and if there's not help and access, people will just sometimes go the easier route, and they're not going to say, oh, I'm just not going to grow. They're just going to be like, I guess I just can't follow these regulations because they're too hard. So let's find a workaround. So very, very important. I love that you guys are providing that.
Thank you. Yeah. Yep. It's definitely a priority of ours. I mean, the regulatory system should be designed to be, it should be approachable to cultivators. It should be agreeable. It should be wanting to help people do better for the environment on their land. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we don't really see that a lot. We see people that, want to shoot spotted owls on their property because they don't want a biologist to come out and hoot for them and find them, and we also understand that we understand that's not necessarily something that they want, but it's about their family. It's about keeping food on the table. It's about keeping their legacy alive. And so we have to find the middle ground a lot of times between regulators and biologists. We're always going to be on the side of the environment no matter what. But we have a real soft spot for cultivators, and I understand it. And going through this whole process with the environmental regulations can be really daunting. Half the time, the regulators don't even understand it, and they don't do it right sometimes. I mean, we've had experience with that where I'm like, "Hey, you're not doing SIPO right," and so it's definitely been a big learning curve up here, and it's further complicated by the special status species we have. But they have a right to be here. Cultivators have a right to be here. So we're just trying to find a way to make all that work.
Yep.
Our other programs. Sorry, this is my slide too. Okay. So our other programs, I actually already talked about FWP, but I guess I'll talk about it a little bit more. So that was our Southern Oregon program. We worked with Pollinator Project Rogue Valley and also the Understory Initiative to establish pollinator-friendly plants and do some pesticide education. We applied for a number of grants. I think there was 3 or 4 of them, big grants, to keep funding this project. And unfortunately, we were never able to get funding. So we're really, really lucky in California that CDFW has created, these grants for organizations to partner with other local organizations and do conservation, because in other states, it's just not that way. In other states, there's also more hoop jumping for us. Like, we even get discriminated against when it comes to grant money. So if it comes from a federal fund, a lot of times they are not willing to fund a cannabis project, even though I'm like, okay, we're literally like planting flowers for pollinators. We're not like directly growing weed with this grant money. It just happens to be that we're doing conservation on a farm. And it couldn't happen. So it was a real disappointment. We're still looking for other options to be able to do this. But at this point in time, there's not a lot of grants that we're able to apply for to continue this program. So cultivators, out of the goodness of their heart, are just continuing it with Pollinator Project Rogue Valley and Understory Initiative. And they're going to put together a native plant nursery, so kind of like growing native plants, starting popping seeds and being able to share with each other these different species that provide benefits to pollinators in the area. The other program that we're a part of is 1% for the Planet, which is Patagonia's initiative. So we do have some 1% for the Planet partners, and we are part of the 1% for the Planet nonprofit network. So we get some cool swag sometimes from Patagonia and use it in our raffles, or use it for public education events where we're like, hey, if you can name this species, or whatever on Instagram, we'll send you like a Patagonia hat. So we've done that a couple of times too. So that's one of the ways that we're funded. It's not necessarily like a conservation program. It's just one of the ways that we're funded. So Patagonia is a great, amazing company to work with. And we have some cultivators that do the 1% for the Planet thing with us as well. So very, very generous.
Great. Thank you, Jackie, for, again, a wonderful explanation of, our current programs and our 1% for the Planet. Just a great way to explain that. So I'll talk about some of our recent work and events that we like to do. So our team works really hard to actively work with cultivator partners while also educating the cannabis community. So one of the things that we like to do, we like to go to MJ BizCon. So that's a picture of Jackie and I at MJ BizCon last year in Vegas. And it's really like the only time a year that Jackie and I get to meet up, since I don't live in Humboldt, I live in Orange County. So really do cherish the time that I get with Jackie. So when we're at MJ BizCon, where we partake in Associations Day, which is like a way for a lot of nonprofits and businesses alike to really get together in the same space and just kind of learn about what everyone's doing pertaining to the cannabis industry. And it's really like we meet so many great people there, really great way to make connections and see what, everything, like what's up to date in the nonprofit world. So yeah,
I love
it's a
that
great.
MJBizCon does this. It is a good chance for you to like interact with like other nonprofits across the country, across the world, and kind of talk about what you're doing. Just like you said, in businesses that are really interested in working with groups, that's where they can kind of talk to many in one place.
Yeah, and it's really interesting for us because we'll talk with people and they'll always tell us like, wow, like I never knew like that this was a thing, like cannabis and conservation. They're always like, how do those two like words or things intersect with one another? And so it's surprising to me that, again, it's not known, but also it's not very surprising because it's such a niche, field, working with these cannabis farmers in the ways that we do. So that's why we appreciate that we're able to educate people, because again, that's part of one of our mission statements. So yeah. Great. And apart from doing like fun events like that, Jackie and I really, this is very serious to us and very near and dear to our heart, like, supporting the small farmers, the legacy farmers. And so we like to, partake in whether if it's like a suspend measure S press event. Jackie, I think, did that early last year. And that was really to advocate for the small farmers, to save the farmers, save their land, fight for fair taxes, and ultimately to prevent corporate cannabis from taking over these small farms. It's real. It's a real like concern and threat that these people are facing, and that's just something that we really are truly passionate about. And I also had the chance to speak at Long Beach City Council last July, I think, and I also took some of the same notes that Jackie talked about at Measure S, and really made that apparent to the city council members, because they just don't know what these farmers are going through and how that ultimately relates to their livelihood, and from farm to dispensary, that's just not something that they're thinking about. So just slowly planting the seed is how I like to think about it. And I really like this quote. I'm into quotes. It says, "One individual cannot possibly make a difference alone. It is individual efforts collectively that makes a noticeable difference. All the difference in the world," from Dr. Jane Goodall. So again, I feel like this really resonates.
Though,
Yeah, definitely. I just feel like this. I just feel like this really resonates again with the work that we do. If one person can start it, other people can, follow along, and it just takes one. So that's what we're here for, is to really be an advocate for not only the farmers, but advocates for wildlife. They don't have a voice, so we see ourselves as being their voice. Definitely. And I'll talk about some recent collaborators. These are some partners that we collaborated with last year. So like I said, at MJBizCon, we were one of the sponsored nonprofits. So that was really exciting. We had our video playing at the Shangri-La event. So that was pretty cool, because the year before that, we didn't have invites. We didn't have tickets to go to this event. And that was, we kind of just had to like make our way, just get through, and this past year was completely different. We we had a meeting with like David Tran, and we got invites. So that was really cool, that just within 1 year, like we really are making a difference. We're getting our name out there. Yeah. And it's just like little by little, we're making our space in this industry. Similarly, we partner with Ingersoll Rand at MJBizCon. So during the conference, each badge that they scanned from attendees, a portion of those scans went to CFC. So that was a really great way to, create some funds for us just to keep us going. And then we also like to do some point of purchase fundraisers. So I think we did one with Kiskanu, which is a local dispensary up north in Humboldt. So they did, I think it was the Patagonia raffle for us. So that was pretty cool that they did that for us. And we also sometimes get donations from RxD Co., which is a cannabis product or packaging company. So it's pretty cool that they do that for us, and we really appreciate all of their donations. And we also partnered with Pure Bar Tustin, which is a fitness studio that I worked for the last year. They did a wildlife weekend fundraiser for us. So all of the funds that were collected for classes went to CFC. And then we also did a raffle for a nest box. It was a bluebird nest box, and a lot of cool not tools, but it was bird feed, some filler for the nest box. So, someone can create that little micro habitat at their home, because if we all wanted to relate back to the work that we're doing, create more space for wildlife, even in your home. So I really, really enjoyed that fundraiser. And also Last Prisoner Project was another sponsored nonprofit that we we're proud to be with at Shangri-La. So we love what they do. They're amazing. So really proud to just be in that same area with them.
All right, so big number on the screen there. We finally did it. So we got 2 big grants totaling $2.6 million to implement our conservation programs on farms. And that is for the licensing program that I talked about before, and for the drought resilience program. And we currently work with over 200 plus farms. I honestly started to lose count, so that's just a nice round number. And they're all up here in Northern California, with a couple of scattered ones across the nation. But yeah, all that money, we're really proud to say that we have very, very, very low overhead and operating costs. We're all remote. I work from a home office, so does Vanessa. So we're really able to direct that money, 90% of it is just going straight towards our on the ground restoration work. So we're really proud to say that, and we are going to do a press release here in the next couple of weeks about these 2 grants, and it's the most money that we've raised to date for our conservation work. So
that's amazing. You should be very excited. Did that money at all come from the Prop 64 taxes, or is this just all CDFW funds that they're distributing?
I believe that, and I could be wrong, so don't quote me on it, but I do believe that all of the CRGP money, which is the Cannabis Restoration Grant Fund, I do believe that all of that comes from cannabis taxes in the state.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
and that's why we're paying all these taxes. Hopefully, it's to give it to good groups like you that can help restore the environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. So I'll talk about our success by the numbers for the past year. So we calculated roughly about 1,500 hours of free cultivator consulting and public education. So you say that that number doubled from the year before. So it's just crazy, anytime a cultivator has a question, they need to talk about a program, they call us, and we'll be happy to talk to them. So again, within the last year, because I became more knowledgeable, I guess you could say, and proficient in this, talking to cultivators and really understanding the lingo, I was able to help increase that number. So not leaving it all into Jackie, because she's amazing. She does a lot. So I try to take a little bit of the burden off of her back by just, dealing with the farmers. And again, we did around 154 biological assessments over the last year, or in the year before that, around 16 special status species site assessments on farms, and also 2 new conservation programs. So it's definitely, commendable for both of us, and our small team hasn't been easy, waiting and for the grants and doing all this just with our small but mighty team. It's all been possible. So yeah, great numbers to report for this past year.
That's amazing.
All right, and I do realize we're cutting it close on time, Candace, so I can zoom through these last couple.
No worries. Yeah, we're fine.
Okay, great. So our 2023 funding goals. Ideally, we would really like to achieve a fully funded status for our whole staff. It's really hard to do through government grants just because of the way that you're paid. It's all reimbursement. So essentially, we have to work for free and then get reimbursed. So we would love to find private foundations or be able to get more industry donations to be able to support our staff and bring everybody up to full time, and bring our seasonal biologists on full time, and just be more of a resource to cultivators and to what we're doing. We are obviously very devoted to our cause, so we'll keep doing this no matter what, even if this doesn't happen. But it would be a great long-term goal. And this is a common goal for nonprofits. Obviously, having regular funding is great, especially when you're working with private foundations versus state or federal grants. It can just provide you with a lot more security. And that way we can still keep serving our cultivators. We can still keep doing all the conservation work that we need to be doing. And instead of constantly trying to apply for grants, which these grant applications, they're extremely onerous. They take a really, really long time to apply for. And they take up a lot of staff time. And when we're doing that, we don't have time to be doing all of the conservation program work that we need to be doing. So a lot of the grant writing happens over the winter time. And it would be really nice to be able to know that we've got steady streams of income coming in, where we can keep supporting our staff and being the resource to the industry. So that's one of our goals. We're working on it. We have a couple smaller private foundations that fund us, and we do have we're very, very generous donors in the industry. So we're going to keep doing our fundraising efforts there and trying to get more established within the donation and with industry donations and private foundations. We also
need harder with our economy lately, but that is the goal of every nonprofit.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing too is there's so many nonprofits in California, so there isn't this like endless flow of private foundation money to go around to possibly to all of them. And so you kind of have to develop these donor relationships. You have to work your way in, and honestly, you have to just find someone that really values the work that you do. So we're working on that. We're getting there. But in the interim, we are certainly grateful to the state for supporting us in the way that they have. They've been, I really can't say enough good things about CDFW and the relationship that we've had with them. They've really, really been supportive of everything that we're doing. So
excellent.
That's that. And we'd also love to do some fundraisers with more dispensaries. So our point of purchase fundraisers are really great for us. It's all consumer funded. It doesn't cost the dispensary much to do it, except for teaching your staff how to do a couple of things. And it's a really great way to support our work. Like I said before, like we have very, very slim overhead. Most nonprofits are operating at 60% is going to their programs and 40% is just going to administrative and overhead. We have like 95% going directly to our programs and a very small portion going to just keeping our organization running. So you can know that when you donate to us, it's really going to our on the ground work and making sure that we can keep doing what we're doing.
Great.
So how to work with us? You can join a conservation program in your area if you're a cultivator. You can host a fundraiser if you are a retailer, or you just are a business that wants to participate in what we're doing, or you can host a sustainability event. You can help us increase our visibility through media. So like us on Instagram, share our mission, follow us on Facebook or whatever other social media channels you got. Or if you're a journalist and you'd love to do an article about us in a cannabis publication, that would be amazing. We would love that. And if you're a consumer, please try to talk to your dispensaries about the importance of conservation on cannabis farms. Tell your dispensary you want them to get cannabis that is part of one of CFC's farm partners. We don't have, I'm working on it. I don't have an exhaustive list up on our website of everybody that we work with. I can certainly point you to some brands that do their own packaging and that are available in local dispensaries near you. So. And here's a picture of us with Johnny at Huckleberry Hill Farm in Whitethorn with our restoration team.
That dog's almost bigger than all of you guys.
Yes, he's amazing.
All of you guys together.
Yeah. Awesome. And that's our presentation. So thank you guys so much for listening to us ramble on for the last hour.
That was such great information. You guys, shared so much information about your guys' programs. I love what you guys are doing, and you're so passionate. This was really great. Do you guys have time for a couple questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So I was wondering, how do you guys kind of always awesome? How do you guys figure out which farms you want to work with? Do they come to you, or do you ever field complaints and kind of go in there and help people?
Vanessa, do you want to answer this?
Hopefully we have the same answer. But from my experience, recently working with cultivators, it's really word of mouth. They know someone, hey, my neighbor or so-and-so told me, you guys are working on a grant, I'd love to get in on it. Can we meet? So that's usually how I will, get in touch with these cultivators is by someone they know. So again, because I don't live out in Humboldt, so usually they'll just email me or call me. So that's how I understand it, but it might be a little bit different for Jackie, since she's been living up in Humboldt for quite a while and started this. So
yeah, no, I mean, I certainly just get calls and emails from people who want to be in our programs or be a recipient of the grant funds or what have you. But a lot of what I do as well is working with other organizations in the area that represent cultivators. So consulting firms, for example, HCGA, okay, Humboldt County Growers Alliance, etc. Yeah, so people that work with cultivators, we certainly put the word out to them, and then people can start to work with us. And I also I've lived here for a really long time, so I know a lot of cultivators as well. And some of them, many of them are my friends and colleagues, or I've even gone to school with them. So yeah.
That makes sense. Up north, it's really kind of, people just talk to each other and spread the word that way. They're not really, finding each other on social media or anything. So that answers my question. That makes sense. So have you guys ever gone to an illegal grow site, and can you kind of tell us about some of the negative consequences that you've seen on the environment from people who are doing it the wrong way?
Yeah, so we don't really deal with illegal grows. The only thing that we've done with illicit cultivation is anything that goes on public lands. So we do work with the Cannabis Removal on Public Lands Project. It's cropproject.org. And they are working, they're known as trespass grows. So it's a lot of cartel activity that happens in public lands, and it's extremely destructive to our public lands and public water supplies and native wildlife. So we have done a restoration project. We actually packed out a bunch of trash and leftover irrigation equipment, you name it, fertilizer bags, etc. That was left in a wilderness area. So we took a string of pack horses and went out to the site and helped do restoration there. And then we also provide some consulting to, like I said, to the Crop Project in terms of kind of representing the legal industry and an environmental perspective in the cannabis space to help with their work. But other than that, we really just work with licensed cultivators.
Nice. Trying to get them to follow the law so they don't end up having to be forced into the hills. What animal or species do you guys think is the most impacted right now? Let's just say with like the cultivators that are, working within the regulations, are licensed, like what species do you think is the most vulnerable right now? Because they're trying to like rectify.
That's an excellent question. I guess, well, it's kind of a toss-up. I would say it depends on the ecoregion that you're a part of. If you're on the coast, I would certainly say, if you're in like your old growth forest, or you have, like spawning streams on your property, I would certainly say salmon, different species of salmon, steelhead, etc. up here. That's definitely a species that's suffering, and it's largely just a product of watershed quality. And sedimentation. A lot of these roads, people don't realize how much roads have an impact. So all these grow sites that have these cut-in roads that probably weren't done in the best way, all that sediment gets washed in the watershed, creates sedimentation, and makes the water essentially cloudy. It makes it not clear. So in layman's terms, it's a water quality issue, where you get this debris that's floating around in the water, and turbidity, and it's really hard for the salmon to survive that. And actually just a lot of aquatic life doesn't do well with that. And also I'd say northern spotted owls, just because so much of their habitat has been cleared. So any type of forest clearing, they require old growth habitat, old growth forest. So if you're, if you've historically cleared your land, now you can't do this. You can't convert old growth forest to agricultural land up here, but especially, well, I should say, can't convert it to a cannabis cultivation up here. But historically that's been done, and the owls have definitely been impacted. I'd say inland, the species that we're seeing a lot is foothill yellow-legged frogs. That's definitely a species of concern. And also fishers. So fishers get into a lot of issues with reduction in habitat, and also from not so much from the legal side, but from the illicit cultivation side, we've seen their population take a huge dive from trespass grows on public lands here. They're getting poisoned, like some crazy number. I think it's like 70 or 80% now. They've tested, they've done a study and tested a sample of the fisher population, and 70 to 80% came back positive for anticoagulant rodenticide. So
what is a fisher? Is it a little bug or something, or
a fisher? It's kind of like a weasel. It's in the weasel.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're kind of like a small Wolverine. They're aggressive little things, but they're great, and they're also require old growth forest and denning sites and cavities in trees, and they're really ecologically important, and they're one we've seen in decline.
Yeah, well, thank you for the work that you guys are doing to try to protect those species and pass around education and knowledge so that we can preserve them for the future. Because, like you said, it all plays into like the cycle of life. Everything is important, and everything we do has an impact. And as good as cannabis is for a lot of people, it benefits us. We need to make sure that we protect the land. So that's wonderful. So let's just, if people wanted to get a hold of you guys, how can they get a hold of you, ask questions, make donations?
If you want to get a hold, go ahead, Vanessa.
Oh, well, if you want to get a hold of us, if you have any specific questions, you can reach us a variety of ways. So you can email Jackie or I at either Vanessa or Jackie at cannabisforconservation.org. Or if you have less pressing questions, you can always, shoot us a DM on our Instagram. We try to stay pretty active on there. So yeah, if you want to get a hold of us, for whatever reason, whatever question you have, or you want some like specific resources on to learn more about our work, or conservation in general, definitely that'd be a great way to get a hold of us.
These are 501c3, so donations are tax deductible. So
yes,
it's a great reason to give.
Yes, on our website we've got our donation portal. So you can click on, I believe it's Take Action, that tab, and you can provide us a donation there. There's also a ton of information on our website about how you can manage your land, how you can participate in conservation. Our phone numbers, I believe, are also on there. You're welcome to give us a call. So yeah, those are certainly all the ways you can interact with us, get in touch with us, and we would be happy to hear from you. So thank you all so much for being part of this. We've loved talking to you and sharing our work with you. And thank you, Candace. It was such a joy to be on here with you.
Yeah, thank you guys for taking this time to be with us, to answer all of our questions and share this information. I can tell you guys are both very dedicated to both the planet and to cannabis. And we're so lucky, actually, that you guys are filling this space, because if it wasn't for you guys, nobody else would really be doing this. We wouldn't have any intermediary that's looking out for everybody, really, if it wasn't for you guys. So very happy to help spread this message. And I hope that everybody, tells their farmer friends about the work that you guys are doing and reaches out to you guys for more information.
Yeah, thank you so much, Candace. It's truly just an honor and to have this interface and platform to spread the word and educate the cannabis community. So truly thank you so much for giving us this great opportunity. So thank you. Much gratitude to you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both for being with us. Thank you for your whole team and all the work that you guys do. Thanks to our audience for being with us here today. I hope that we were able to share some information that makes everybody better informed cannabis consumers. And I hope that everybody has a nice day and that you stay safe and well. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Take care, all.
Bye. Thank you.